Hey there, this is Ryan Wakefield with Social Church, and this is your social media tip of the week. So hopefully you're having a great start to your 2017. I thought I'd give one of my favorite tips to start the year off right. This is a really big one, so really pay attention and stay to the end of the video because I'm going to be giving you some really crucial tips on how to make sure you guys are getting the most engagement with your social media at your church this year. So it's a quick story here to kind of set up this tip. A few years ago, I started going to this new church, and something that they were doing was really interesting. So they were putting a lot of time and energy into a church bulletin. Now, some of you guys are laughing and want to hate on the church bulletin, and that's probably for another video. But what was interesting is this church, after putting all this time and energy into their bulletin, was only handing it out to select people, certain doors or maybe certain entrances to the church. And quite frankly, as people went through the service, only about 3% of the people actually had a church bulletin. Certain weeks, maybe 10%. And really good weeks, they handed it out effectively to about 15% of their attendees on any given Sunday. And so I started asking the pastor, I was like, Pastor, what is up with the bulletin? It's a beautiful bulletin. You put a lot of time and energy into the content, but only a few, people coming are getting the bulletin. And he said, well, Ryan, it would just take a lot of time and energy to get the bulletin passed out to all the people. We'd have to train more ushers and greeters and have to, hand out more. And it's just a lot of work. Now, I completely just made up that story, but I wanted to do it to prove just kind of a point here about what's happening with the vast majority of social media accounts for churches across the country and really across the globe. Is a lot of them are putting time and energy into, let's say, Facebook. We're going to use Facebook as this example for this tip. And what's unfortunately happening is only 3%, maybe 10% at most, maybe 15 to 20% of their audience are actually seeing their posts. Now, we wouldn't stand for that if it was, again, going back to the old school analogy of handing out a bulletin. We'd kind of be like, that's absurd. If we're going to put all that time and energy into the bulletin, let's make sure we get it into as many hands as possible. Same thing goes with your social media. If you're going to put the energy into creating the content and getting it out there, then let's make sure we get it into the most hands or the most news feeds as possible. And quite frankly, over the last 3 to 5 years, Facebook has made that very difficult for churches because Facebook sees pages, whether you're a nonprofit or you're a church or your business, they kind of see pages all lumped together. So churches are kind of lumped in with business pages, and they really want those pages to pay in order to get in front of your audience. So in the early days of Facebook, everybody kind of got entrance into people's news feeds for free. But as that's gone along, pages have a really hard time of getting into people's news feeds to where now only 2 to 3% to maybe 20 to 30%. 30% for us, the church that I work with, would be great. But unfortunately, it's really hard to get into people's news feeds. So that's where today's tip of the week comes in. What if I told you that there was a way that your church could get into people's news feeds every time? That every single time you post a piece of content, you would be the first thing everybody saw. Now that sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? Especially if you're not saying we're not going to pay for it. We want to do that and we want to do it for free. And I'm going to tell you today, show you a tip that can actually pull that off for your church. So it's not rocket science. It's a feature that Facebook makes available. It's just going to take some energy in order for you to get people to take you up on this offer. And I'm going to explain at the end of this video some pro tips on how to actually do that. So stick around for those tips. So let's jump in. What is this kind of magical feature that Facebook makes available to me and to you and to our churches? And quite frankly, if you're running a nonprofit, you could do this as well. Well, it's called the See First feature. And let's jump over to my screen and I'm going to show you how to turn it on for your church. And then I'm going to show you how to do that in a mobile device as well. But first, a quick disclaimer that if you are an admin for the page that you're trying to see first, this feature does not show up. For whatever reason, it doesn't show up, probably because it's automatically set up for you if you're a page admin to see that content first. So in this case, I am logged in as my wife. Thank you, Amy, to show you what this looks like. So here's all you're going to do. You're going to go again, navigate to a page that you are not the admin. So Social Church, and then you're going to click, you can like it, but then under following, you're going to click see first. That's how easy it is. Go to the page, click on following on the desktop, and then see first. Now, anytime Social Church posts content on Facebook, my wife's case in this is going to see that content on the top of their newsfeed every single time. That totally circumvents the algorithm that's making decisions for people on what they see and what they don't see. And if you can get a good amount of people in your church to do this, man, it can be a huge benefit for you and your church. It can take your engagement through the roof, because every person who does this is going to see your content first and every single time. And that can be a game changer. So let's look at what it looks like on the mobile device. So here's what it looks like on a mobile device. And again, this is super simple and probably where I would recommend you start in terms of showing people in your church how to do this. Again, has to be on a page that you are not an admin on for this following feature to show up. So you're going to go to a page. In this case, I'm going to show you what this looks like at the Text in Church Facebook page. Highly recommend that you check them out if you haven't already. Like their page, and then all you do, click following, and it's going to be on this default by default. And then you're going to click see first. That's how simple it is. So for you and your church, you're going to tell them, go to your church page, click on following, click see first. And that's it. So now that you understand how to do the See First feature and why it's so important, the goal is going to be to teach people in your church how to do this for themselves, how to go through and select your church page as one of their See First options. Now, here's what I recommend, and what we've done at Summit Park Church is make a quick little video about how to do this, how to do it on the desktop, how to do it on your mobile device. You can use QuickTime, has a screen capture option. ScreenFlow is the program that I use and currently using it to record this. Can make a quick little video and show them how to do this. Now, here's the pro tip that I talked about in the beginning of this video. I'm going to walk through ways to actually make this part of your strategy, because if you want this to actually work for you, and this is just kind of a broad principle in general, is take your intentions and put them as part of your systems. Let me say that again. Anything in 2017 that you want to work for you for the church, for the long term, is take those intentions and make them a part of your systems. So I'm going to walk through ways that you can actually do that, because right now you're watching this video and be like, man, that would be great if we could get 25, 50%, 75%, 100% of the people who come to our church and who love us to do the See First. That would be awesome. And let me tell you, it could revolutionize your church's social media engagement for this year. But you can't just stop there with good intentions. You have to figure out, okay, how do we take those intentions and make them part of our system? So let me break this down. This is kind of more in-depth coaching. It's going to take some work, but it's going to be worth it. It's the difference between a good idea and a good idea that's implemented really well. So let's jump in here. How can you do this? One is start by doing this with your leadership team. Start with your leadership team. So you may have a group of volunteers, board members, whatever you consider on your top kind of core leadership level, and walk them all through how to do this. Everything starts and kind of is based off of your leadership. And if your leadership understands how to do this and why it's important, you have a huge head start of getting this as a part of your systems in your culture. So start there. It's also going to give you some time to kind of flesh it out, explain it, walk through some of the problems, troubleshoot it, and then it's going to educate your leadership. You're going to start there. Now, your leadership could take that and work it through their systems, maybe their ministry teams, maybe areas that they oversee, maybe their small groups. Maybe you do this in all your life groups. So you could do that as kind of step two. So your leadership team, and then kind of your ministry teams, your small group systems, Sunday school classes, whatever that is, you could work through there on how to do it. Now, you might, again, have a walkthrough video that you could play in these groups. You might have some graphics that help support this, which will be helpful in some of the other ideas I'm going to give you later. It doesn't have to be really complicated, highly professional design. Something very simple will work just great. The third tip would be maybe in volunteer meetings. If you have some trainings where you get all your volunteers together, again, it could be maybe specific ministry teams, but if you're doing volunteer meetings, this is a great thing to take 5 minutes out and have all your volunteers walk through how to to do this. Again, you're seeing the progression of if you can start with your core and then just work outward, you're implementing these ideas into your systems. And yes, it is that important that we get the word out, because if you're putting all this content and time and energy into what's going on in the life of the church and nobody's seeing it, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot. But if you can do stuff like this and you can start leading the way on your social media engagement, it can make a huge difference for your church in reaching people in your community. Fourth, membership classes or similar. And that would go in with number 5. If you have a growth track, everybody kind of does assimilation, membership, growth track a little bit different. But in those processes, this would be a great time because you're probably going to talk about things like inviting other people to church, being missional, evangelism, reaching out. This goes great into that kind of section of a growth track or an evangelism track of, hey, social media is a part of the way that we reach out into the community. It's a part of the way we stay connected throughout the week. It's a part of the way we take the conversation that started on the weekend and keep going throughout the week. It's part of our discipleship, kind of strategy and plan. So you can work that into your membership classes, your growth track, your assimilation process. Next, you can do it in your weekend services. So I wouldn't start there. I think that's kind of maybe where people like jump to, oh, this is awesome, we could just go start there. But if you start with the core and then now you've got leadership, you've got people, your volunteers who understand, and now maybe you do it in a weekend service where you take 5 minutes out, you have graphics on the screen, and you say, and I'm going to talk to you on how to kind of couch this. That's going to be helpful here in a minute, but you could do it on a weekend service, and that could be really great as well. You could do it on special events, maybe when you hold youth events, women events, men's events. This could work into those as well. You can do it in Facebook groups. So instead of just putting this out on the page, maybe go into groups that are related to your church that you have and put those videos and graphics into those groups that explain how to do this. I'd recommend doing posting in your groups as opposed to maybe just putting this out on your page, although putting it out on your page could be fine as well. And then a last idea is in email. Now, maybe you've got the core, you've got the leadership, you're getting some momentum. Now's the time. Maybe you've posted this video in a group or a page, and now you're going to send out an email to the entire church with a link to maybe your video post in the group, which could have a double benefit of people liking your page or joining your group, however you're doing that. And then they're going to engage with this content and go through how to do a See First, but you're driving traffic from email to this content on how to do the See First for your church. So you're going to look at all these different ways that you can promote this and integrate it into your systems. That's how you take intentions and work it into your system so it actually works on behalf of your church. So that way, if you integrate it, say in your growth track, you're going to have this kind of boost at the beginning of the year where you're going to catch most of the church up to speed. And then if it's in your systems, then you're constantly going to be onboarding people into this engagement and into this See First option throughout the year. That way it's not just a one and done, but it's something that your church continually does. And I'm telling you, over the life of your church, that will make a huge deal. So now let me give you some ideas on how you can actually get people to take you up on this. Because if you just throw it out there, hey, we want the church to be on the top of your newsfeed, you'll have some people take you up on that. And that's the advantage that the church world has over, say, like a business page is, there's not a whole lot of businesses out there that customers are going to be flocking to just have their promo and their sales on top of their newsfeed. But the church world is different because we have a built-in group of people that love us, that we're all on the same page. We have a common vision and we're going after this together. So this makes a whole lot of sense in the church world. But still, if you just throw it out there, you'll have some people take you up on it. But the vast majority of people, it'll just kind of go over their head and they'll continue on with their kind of day or their life. But if you use some marketing understanding and couch this in certain ways, you're going to show people why this can be really important to their year. So this is what I would recommend on how you kind of couch throwing this out there for your churches. One is create some sort of urgency about this. So maybe you kind of develop all this and you do it, you kind of roll it out in a week where maybe you have an impending snowstorm coming. So we're in the Midwest, Kansas City, and oftentimes, where you can see the forecast and like, man, this could be a week where we don't have a church. And so that's going to be a week everybody wants to know, are we having church? Are we not having church? And so you have some urgency built in. So that's a great time to say, hey guys, we're aware of the snowstorm and we want you to be aware what we do with service this weekend. Here's a video that you can watch through to make sure you don't miss the announcement of what we're doing. Now you've given the church a great reason in order to take you up on it. So a snowstorm is just one example. Get creative on how can you give people a reason that they don't want to miss your social media posts, as opposed to just, hey, you don't want to miss it, or sign up for a newsletter. Well, that's kind of boring. Give people some sort of urgency on why they don't want to miss it. That's the season where you're going to get the most people taking you up on this and actually checking the see first option. Also, when you're doing a special initiative, maybe, again, this is why starting off a new year can be really powerful with something like this, See First, because a lot of churches are doing a fasting or prayer or Bible study, and everybody wants to start off the new year and have their best year yet and start the new year off right. So now you've got an initiative. So maybe you're doing special posts on a Bible reading plan, and you're going to want to say, hey guys, we have this special thing, fill in the blank what it is for your church. Most churches are doing something, and we don't want you to miss it. So we want everybody to do the see first option. So you, every morning when you wake up, the Bible reading plan is right there for you. Again, you're taking advantage of a special season and you're getting people to opt in. Now, even when that season is done, more than likely they're going to hang with you on the see first option. So that's a great time. That's why I've chosen to do this tip this week, is because now is a great time to do something like this. Another one is maybe you're just desperate and you want to do some sort of incentive or giveaway. Maybe you're doing something special at your church and some sort of Incentivize deal. So it's a great time to, hey, you don't want to miss what's going on, so do the see first. You could kind of manufacture some urgency by doing some sort of incentive or giveaway. Another one is some valuable content. So maybe you're doing a series on relationships or marriage or parenting. So this would be true of Social Church. We're giving away valuable coaching and tips every single week. And so we're saying you don't want to miss this. So do the see first for Social Church. So you can take that same idea and implement that for your church. You've got some sort of valuable series that you're giving away, and you're saying, hey, you're not going to want to miss this series, this content that we're rolling out. So do the see first option. So there it is. Those are ways that you can drive traffic to it, and those are the ways that you can surround it with some sort of urgency and some sort of marketing understanding so people will actually take you up on it. And man, I'm telling you, if you follow through and you're diligent with this and you can onboard people in some sort of group, get them selecting the see first for your church and then implement it into your system. So as you're assimilating people into the life of the church, you're also getting them where they're selecting the see first along the way. I'm telling you, this is a key to your social media engagement. This will get your information in front of more people. And then it's also, if you can cross that hurdle, you're well on your way to getting people to engaging and to starting new relationships with people in your community. And that's what this is all about. We don't just do social media because we have a whole lot of time on our hands. We do it because we want to reach more people with the gospel. And so this is, I know it's a little bit of a technical tip, but if you can do it and you can implement it in your church and you can implement it in your systems, it's going to help you reach your mission and vision for your church. If you have any questions, let me know. If you get stuck along the way, put those in the comments below. Again, maybe you're watching this and you're a pastor and you have somebody helping you with your social media. Tag them in the comments below so they can get this, and they can also do the see first for Social Church so they can get all of our tips of the week, because we're doing these every week to give you ideas on how to make sure your social media is actually helping your church. That's it. Hopefully you have a great new year. I'm here to help walk alongside you this year. Be blessed, and we'll see you next week. Then you're going to come up here and you're going to click on this little down arrow that gives you these options here. And it might look a little bit different based on the browser that you're using. But what you're looking for is this News Feed Preferences tab here. So scroll down, click on the News Feed Preferences tab. Now that's going to pull up some different options. Most people have never seen this option. I mean, you can prioritize what Facebook calls see first. You can unfollow people here. You can reconnect with people maybe you've unfollowed, or you can discover new pages. So you might find this helpful just in your personal organization going into the new year. But what we're going to look at here is this prioritize who to see first. So you can set up maybe people, maybe I want to see my wife, Amy, see her post first. So you can set up who you want to see first. So for this example, I'm actually going to come over here to where it allows you, I'm not going to worry about friends. I'm going to go to pages only. And then here's what I'm going to recommend you do, and then also you could coach your people to do this, is once you pull this up, just start scrolling down. So Facebook loads up all the different pages. Now, as you can quickly see, most people have maybe hundreds of pages that over the years that they've followed. So you can imagine how hard it is if all these pages are publishing, they're competing for people's time and energy. So this shortcut is actually going to circumvent all that and get you to the top of the list. So it just goes on and on and on if you're anything like me. But this is somewhat important because oftentimes the pages that you want people to see first don't load at the top. So now once you've loaded all your pages, I'm in the Firefox window. I'm going to do on a Mac, an Apple F, to bring up my Find in page. Now you may be in Chrome or Safari or Internet Explorer, whatever your search feature is, pull that up. And in this case, I'm going to type in social church. Now you may say, I'll give you another one. When you type in, see here, I type in Sporting Kansas City. Could type in highlight all and then just jump down to anything that has the word sporting in it. And that allows you to navigate through all your different pages by doing the search feature as opposed to just looking for them, going through hundreds of different pages. So in this case, and I encourage you to do this with me, type in social church. And then once it pulls it up, you could click on so it navigates to our page. And if you haven't liked it already, you're going to have to like the page. So if you've liked the social church, click on that, and then you'll see this little star pop up. Now that's going to make sure you see the social church tip of the weeks. This tip that I'm doing now and future tips, you're going to see that first. So that would be a good example on why it could be valuable for you in this case. But you're going to do that with your church. So you can see here, Summit Park Church, the church I attend and volunteer at, got that on see first. Springfield Pregnancy Care Center, a nonprofit I work at, I've got that on see first. So you could also go through other pages, but for this case study, I'm going to click on social church to see first. Now, here's what's going to happen. Once you click on see first, when the social church puts out a new tip, you're going to see that at the top of your newsfeed. So you're never going to miss a tip, which could be great. If you're managing your church's social media accounts, that's going to make sure you see all our tips as soon as they're published. That way you can take advantage of the coaching and the content that we're giving you totally for free. So if this is your church and you've clicked on see first, that's going to do the same thing. So when your church posts an update, if somebody has clicked see first, they're going to see that update on the very top of their newsfeed. Just what it says, they're going to see that first. Now, this can be really important because if you can get a good amount of people in your church to click on this option, that guarantees that your content, when you publish it, is automatically going to be seen when they're logging into Facebook. That can give you a huge advantage for your church for that content, because again, the goal is to get that in front of as many people as possible. Now, here's the other thing. If you've started to develop a culture in your church of engagement on social media, liking, commenting, sharing, just engaging with your content, now that's going to help you even more, because when people see that first and they're kind of trained, hey, when I see a post, I'm going to engage with it, then that's going to help get it into their friends' newsfeed and into your community's newsfeed and start this conversation and developing relationships with people in your church and with the official church page and people in your community. So that's what really we're going for. That's the end goal, is to get the church developing more relationships with people in your community for free. So that's how you do it on the desktop. And then let's switch over and show you how to do that on a mobile device. Okay, now I'm going to jump over to my mobile phone here and show you what this looks like on the mobile app. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm on an iPhone. And also remember that they have to like your page first before this will work. So one thing you might do is start, if you're doing a tutorial, start with going to facebook.com/Summit Park Church, insert obviously your church there, make sure they like it, and then jump over to this option here. But basically on the mobile phone, you're going to go down here to, this has my 3 lines here at the bottom right, which basically brings up some settings and options. I'm going to go down to where it says settings. I think ultimately, depending on the device you're on, you're just looking for this settings option, and then that shows you the ability to go to the news feed preferences. Again, that was quick. I clicked on the news feed preferences. Now you're going to go to prioritize who to see first. It's going to bring up that screen that looks very similar to what you're going to see on the desktop. Remember, you're going to want people to start scrolling and load up. I know it's going to take a little bit of time, but to start scrolling to load up all their pages and friends and people. What happens is the search feature, whether you're on the desktop and using the built-in browser search feature, or what I found on my Facebook app, is it only searches what it loads up. So if somebody will go ahead and load up most of their contacts, that will assure that the church page is in there somewhere, because more than likely it's probably buried way down here at the bottom. So you can see here, I'm just kind of quickly scrolling to force it to load up everything. And then once you've pretty much got a good chunk, then when you start scrolling down, this search feature pops up. And in this case, I'm going to use kind of the social church here. And there we go. And then all they do is click on it. And once that star shows up, that means that they've selected your page to see first. And then you click done, and that's all there is.